Okay, so we have a Mustang in here today. It needs a fuel pump. We've already went ahead and diagnosed it. So this is one of the ones we have to drop the gas tank. I went ahead and got the fuel pump kit. Whenever I can, I always try to just get the motors instead of getting the entire assembly, because it's some of those assemblies are $300, $400, $500, and this kit here for the Mustang is about $90, maybe a little more, and it comes with a strainer and everything you need. Now, if your fuel gauge isn't working, or you have other issues, you have a crack or a leak or something, then you want to get the whole entire kit. But this car just needs the pump, so we're gonna go about doing that. It's the winter time, and my garage has a gas furnace in it, so this is just a little note. If you're doing this in the winter and you're in a garage that has a gas furnace and you're going to drop the tank, make sure you turn it off and kill that pilot light, because you can have issues with that. Don't ask me how I know, but definitely if you're dropping the fuel tank or having a lot of fumes in your garage, be careful with that, and just go ahead and be safe and shut your pilot light off in your furnace. So anyway, we'll jack it up and get to work. I'll show you. It's not too hard of a job. This car's got about a half tank of gas in it. I'd rather it had less than that, but I guess it's better than a full tank. It is what it is. So anyway, we'll jump on it and get this thing going and get it out of here. All right, whenever I do a fuel pump, I like to start with this. I'll take this off and get all this loose out of here so that we can pull this neck out of the gas tank. So that's usually how I start. There's 4 star bits here. We'll pull those 4 out, and then this will be loose, and then we can get it from the tank. All right, there's 3 10 millimeters, 1, 2, 3 that go around there. You got to pull those out too, so this can pull up a little bit to get out of the tank. So those 3 have to come off too. All right, so running the car. I already pulled off a couple of evap hoses. This one just pulls right out, and then the littler one has one of these push clips in it. Just take a screwdriver and pry that out, and then that one will come right out. This one here. And then there's a 8 millimeter bolt that holds the retainer for the gas fill onto your fuel tank. Just take that out, and that'll loosen that. And then we'll put a pry bar right here, and just get this fill neck out of there so we can drop the tank. All right, so I was looking at this. I think I'm wrong on this. I think we have to drop the tank down a little bit and move the tank over to get this loose. It's really over-engineered. It's been a while since I've done a fuel pump on a Mustang this year. But I think we're going to have to drop the tank down a little bit and just push the tank over that way, because there's bolts that go in this way that's retaining it. And anyway, so we'll work on it. Here's the fuel pump hookup. We'll loosen that up. And then you have 1 bolt here for the strap. But we still have to get, I think there's 1 more line back there we have to get off. So anyway, we'll get this one off first, which is the power to the fuel pump, and then we'll go to the next one. All right, so on this back evap hose, you just grab it from the from this end and this end and squeeze it in. It'll come right off. We're going to take the fuel line off now from the fuel pump. So you want to get the best thing to do is pull the fuel pump fuse and let it run out of gas on its own, and then it won't be much, but there'll still be fuel in that filter a little bit. And make sure you're using LED lights. Don't use a regular light bulb around fuel. That's one thing you definitely don't want to do. Make sure you have LED lights or some kind of light that's not a light bulb when you're working with fuel, because if that thing drops or anything, it can catch on fire. So just want to be careful with that, with the lights you use. So anyway, we'll pull this fuel filter out. We bought a new one for it anyway, and this is just a regular. You pull these clips up like that, and then theoretically they should, once you get them up far enough, they should pull out. Let's see, they kind of go in there. You usually do it by hand, like that. So these kind of claw in there, right here, So just pull it up on this end and then pull it that way, and that'll release it. And then you got the quick release in here. So we'll get the right quick release, put that in there, and that'll slide out. And it's the same with this side. Same thing. Just you probably use your hand and just pull these down and pull them up, and they come right out. If you can't get it with your hand, just use a screwdriver. And it looks like we got a screwdriver clamp here for that. So we'll get this loose, and we'll get these two loose. Make sure you have a pan ready because it's going to leak some fuel. And then this tank should be ready to drop. With this one off, this tank should be ready to drop down. We'll loosen the strap. There's one on each side, and we'll loosen these up, and then we'll pull the tank away from that fuel fill tube, and it should come down freely. So anyway, let me get this clamp loose, and we'll get these two lines. This, you would have to take this line off. It's always a good idea to change your fuel filter if you're going to change the fuel pump. So now's as good a time as any to take these loose. So anyway, I'll get to work on that. All right, so I already got one loose. You can see it kind of dripping. I bought these a long time ago. It's just a cheap little release set, quick release set. Got them on a tool truck a long time ago. Looks like this. I have the aluminum ones, the fancier ones, but I always end up going back to this. So anyway, you want to find the size that's closest to the diameter that you want, which on this one is the smaller one, and it's the same on both sides. What you do is you just put this over the line and push down on it inside this cap right here. This cap has metal claw, basically like metal claws in there, and it just releases those claws. So you just put it in this way and press down on this cap, press it into this cap, and that'll release the fuel line. And anyway, it's the same for both sides. So that's how you get those loose. Just get yourself a set of these. Any auto parts store sells them. And you don't, like I said, I got the fancy ones. I don't even use them. I just use these all the time, unless there's just not a size for this or something. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on these. You can get the cheap plastic ones. And these were the cheap plastic ones. I've had these for over 20 years, and they still work perfect, and I use them all the time. So anyway, just a little tip on that. So yeah, I'll get this one loose, and then we'll take this clamp off and pull this filter. All right, so we're going to start lowering the fuel tank and then working this out. I like to use this big transmission jack that I bought for big box trucks and stuff and diesels. You don't need this. You can get, I mean, the wider the platform, the better. At a pinch, I've actually used floor jacks and wood. It's not the greatest because it can slip off. I mean, it can slip off with any jack, but these are a lot more stable. Or even Harbor Freight sells a small transmission jack for cars. Those work real well. But you want something that has some area here that can hold the tank, because you're going to be fighting it, and it's got fuel in it, so it's not going to be the lightest thing in the world. So anyway, you got these straps. There's two straps here. So I'm just going to loosen them and start lowering this tank down and pushing it towards the driver's side and work this out of the tank. But everything else, you want to double and triple check and make sure everything else is disconnected. You don't want to pull on wires or anything. It's all plastic and it'll break, especially the evap hoses and stuff. So you want to be careful with all that. So anyway, I'm just going to take these. There's 3 bolts, and then this strap here actually has a hanger on this side. So I'm going to take this strap completely out, and then I'll loosen this one, drop it down, and then we'll push that tank out towards the driver's side. All right, so this strap's completely out. You can see this one's hanging down. It's hooked to the body of the car. So we'll just start lowering it. One thing I'll add is it's easier if you have someone to help you with this. I don't, so I roll solo. I'm used to doing it. I've been doing it for years, so it's not a big deal for me. But if you're not used to doing this type of stuff, especially with this tank having a lot of fuel in it, you might want to get a friend to help you maneuver this thing down so you don't make a huge mess and so nothing happens as far as the tank falling off the jack or something like that. All right, so this is why you want to take it down slow. There's actually 2 more evap hoses on this side that go up here. One just pulls off, and one has the yellow retainer. Just pull it out, just pry it back with a screwdriver, and it pops right out, and then you pull those 2 out. So those 2 are right here. So that's why you always want to go slow. You can see here I got the tank a lot of the way down, and that's almost out completely. So That's why I double check. I always double check. You never know. It's been a while since I've done, like I said, done one of these Mustangs. So, you know, fuel pump's right here. So we'll take it down the rest of the way now and get it on the ground. All right, if you get the tank on the ground, now's a good time to blow it off. You don't want all this crap going in the tank. There'll be a lot of debris and whatever up all through here. So you're going to pull this off. You want to just take your air hose and blow that all off and make sure it's clean. Just blow the top of the tank off. That way nothing goes down in the tank. So that'll be the next thing. All right, once you get the tank cleaned off, you want to take your fuel line off that goes to your fuel filter, just like you did with the fuel filter. And then you have one electrical connection here, goes to your fuel sealing unit. You want to pull that off. So now you can take the perimeter bolts out here and then pull this thing out. All right, so once you get those 8mm bolts out, this will pop off. And then you'll see inside here, this will be inside the gas tank, and you just grab both ends of this and push those in, and that unsnaps it from the inside of the gas tank, and then you just pull this all out as one unit. So now we got to take this apart to get down to the fuel pump itself. All right. Once you take out those three 5.5mm bolts, you'll separate this. Now we're finally down to the fuel pump. It's always good to put a new strainer on it. This one's got 2 strainers, and it looks like the kit has both of those, so you definitely want to change those out. So now we'll work on getting this pump out of this body here and get it swapped out. All right, so here's the factory pump. It just slides out. As you can see here, it's got a little bit different connector as the aftermarket one. So they give you this adapter. So what you do is you plug this into the aftermarket one and then plug the factory wiring into this. And then I already put this rubber sleeve on, and we'll put this rubber sleeve on, and we will put this sock on. And then the kit came with the one for the outside here, so we'll change that out real quick. All right, I got the electrical hooked up. I got the 2 boots on. And then I put, the sock on, and then there's, if you look, about ready to drop it. If you look real close, there's a little metal retainer ring inside there. And what you do is you just set that on that nub that's sticking out. And then what I did is I just took my socket, the same socket that you use to pull the case apart, it's a 5.5, and just set it over there and press it down, and that'll snap it into place. So, anyway, so this is basically ready to go back in. It comes with a new seal, so we'll have to change this seal out. The kit came with a new one. And we still got to change this filter out here, so we'll do that next. Alright, so the pump's back in there. All I got to do now is hook up the electrical and zip tie this stuff back. This stuff was zip tied from the factory to keep it all together. And I already changed this seal. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just pull them out, and they got little rubber guides that pop into that plate. And like I said, always change your filters when you do this. So this one's ready to go back. Like I said, I'll hook the electrical up and then zip tie it back the way the factory had it. And then this one's ready to go back in the tank. So that's what the inside of it looks like. And you just lower that down in there and it snaps in on each end. So that's my next step, is I will lower that down there, snap it in, and work on getting these bolts back up, getting those bolts back in. So this is what it looks like when it's down in there. Now your float for your fuel gauge is going to be over here towards the driver's side and towards the front. And then your sock is back here. And you want to fold your sock down and kind of do a little dance with it and get it past this lip right here. Otherwise you might rip it or it might fall off. So fold the sock downward. Don't just don't just push it down in there. And then, like I said, your float arm comes out. There's a gap right here inside the tank where that goes. So it should be oriented pretty much like this. And this one's already snapped down. And then the next dance you're going to have, I'm going to go ahead and zip tie those wires but then this has to go up under there. It's it'll fight you, but you can get it in there. And I don't like taking these off right here because I feel like once you take them off, you're breaking the seal, and then you got to put a clamp on and everything. So anyway, I try to leave those on. So next thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna run a couple zip ties right here, and then I'm gonna put this on, get that down in there, and put this on, and then we're ready to put the tank back up. And when you're taking this out, I know I didn't show it. You know, there's a tab here and a tab here, and you just pry on those inward, and then it should lift out. It'll unsnap it and lift it out. So that's how. And then once you put it back in, you want to make sure you snap it back in. So anyway, that's how it looks on the inside, and that's how it should be oriented. All right, when you're putting this back on, double check and make sure you're not kinking any wires or hoses or anything. You shouldn't have to force this down too hard. I mean, there is a new gasket on here, so you have to. There'll be some where it'll, you know, go down, but just don't force this on there. If it's not going on there and getting close to bottoming out on its own, then you might have one of those wires or hose or something sticking up. So make sure you lift this up a little bit and make sure nothing's pinching before you torque this down. And once you get it all down, you know, you should see your new seal should have its little nipple sticking out. There's 4 of them. So make sure that's all. You should see these nipples sticking up. If you don't, then you have a problem with your seal. So anyway, we'll put the main fuel line back on, and then we'll get this back up on the jack and start putting it back together. All right, I got the tank back up there. Don't forget to put your evap hoses back up on this corner here, because you can't get to them once the tank's up. You know, you don't want to hook those up until you're sure until you're sure the gas tank's not going to fall, and you're almost done. On this side here, you can see that's almost all the way back in. So this tank's pretty lined up and ready. Just needs to go up now, probably another 8-9 inches, and then I'll put these straps back on, and then we're home free at that point. We're almost done with it. So like I said, just don't forget to put your evap lines back on. And the other thing with this hose, with the fill neck there, I always lube them up a little bit. Put a little WD or PB blaster. Don't go crazy on it, but just lube it up. It helps it slide in there easier, because it likes to fight you a little. So anyway, jack it up the rest of the way. We'll put these straps on. All right, so the tank's back up there. All the straps are in. I don't have them totally tight right now. I'm going to go ahead and hook everything up. But there's no way the tank can fall. They're all started, and they're about 3/4 of the way in. So, you know, I'm just going to go back here, hook this evap hose line back in, and then we'll put a new fuel filter in this, and get that installed. And then work on the filler neck, and then we'll tighten the straps all the way, and then we should be done. And then we'll test it and see what kind of fuel pressure we have. So I'm going to work on getting the fuel filter in next. All right, so you've never done one of these fuel pumps before, or fuel filters. Always look at the fuel filter. It's got an arrow. Sometimes it'll say flow or whatever, but it's got an arrow pointing. So the side with the lip is where the arrow's at, and you want to put the fuel pump end on this end, because the arrow is pointing towards the engine. So you want the flow of the fuel is going towards the engine. So this end here will go into the line coming from your fuel tank, and then the arrow will go to the line that goes from the line, and then it follows your body and goes to the front. So make sure you don't put these on backwards. So just follow the arrow. The arrow always goes towards the front of the engine on that. So we'll get this up there and get hooked up, and move over to the fuel filler now. All right, so you put your 3 10mm bolts back in, and then you put in your little Torx, and then that's all done. I actually got the car running. We'll go up and check the fuel pressure gauge and see if it drops below 20 again when we rev it up, see what we're at. All right, so we see here the Mustang, key on, engine running, 25 to 40 PSI. And you know, we know that it was dropping below 20 when we were revving up before, so we'll go over and check it. Then key on, engine off. I guess the Mustang 35 to 50, but we got it running right now, so we'll go over and snap throttle and see what it's at. I was kind of surprised. Usually they run about 40, but this says, according to Ford, 25 to 40 psi. So I know we were dropping below 25. We were snap throttling it earlier. So we'll see what we got now. All right, so in idle, we're right at 30 psi. Of course, the fan's on, so it's going to be hard to hear. We'll snap throttle and see if we get up to 40. So you can see there, we got up to 40. Last time we did that, before we changed the pump, we were dropping below 20. So anyway, we'll go drive it and see how it is, but I think that's pretty definitive there that it's fixed. Like I said, it was dropping below 20 when you'd snap throttle before. So anyway, and then by the way, I didn't mention, this is the 3.8, it's not the V8. So, I mean, I'm sure the fuel pump, they're exactly the same, maybe a little bit different rating, but it'd be the same process as far as changing the fuel pump on it. So I think that we'll wrap this up. I'll go take this for a quick spin and make sure everything's good on it and get this hoopty out of here. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.